Welcome to our latest edition of Upon Further Review. My name is John Henrietto, the sports editor of the Butler Eagle. I'm flanked on my left by sports writer Mike Kilroy and on my right by sports writer Derek Plata. And as always, we are brought to you by our sponsors, Conlon Parker, Troy Allen Chevrolet Buick GMC, also by Penn United Technologies and the Butler Health Systems. And gentlemen, we're up to week number 7, if you count week 0. I know it should be week 8, but it's not. It's week 7.
I gave up on that.
Yeah, I know. And as usual, we always look back on action from last weekend. Mike, we'll start with you. What from last week's scores or action stand out in your mind here?
Vito Pelosi from Slippery Rock really stands out for me. Here's what he's done, not just last week, but the last 2 weeks. 5 completions, 335 yards, 5 touchdowns, 272 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns.
Did have a huge game. Yep.
2 huge games for Vito Pelosi. Slippery Rock's offense under him has really turned the corner. The playbook's opening up each week. He is kind of the missing piece that they have lacked the last 2 years when they've gone back-to-back years of 4 and 7. That stuck out at me. Another thing that's stuck out was Carn City, another dominating victory, and Mars putting up 42 points at North Hills. That was a little bit surprising. I didn't think they would roll up that many points. I thought they'd win, but I thought it'd be a bunch of low-scoring games. So those 3 things really kind of made my eyes still bulge out a little bit.
Yeah, minus Taylor Brennan, who we all thought was going to play last week. He ended up not playing for North Hills. I think that kind of hurt North Hills' offense a little bit, which kind of in turn put Mars' offense on the field a little bit more. But you're right, very productive game for Mars on offense last week. Derek, your thoughts on last week's action?
Just a few weeks ago, we were down on North Catholic when they went down to Derry in a battle of unbeatens and lost 27-0. Last week, they turn around, they go down to Elizabeth Forward, and they pitched a shutout, 27-0. Zach Rocco back on track, 193 yards passing, 83 rushing. Tyree Brown, 2 touchdown catches of 20 yards each, and that defense pitching the shutout. So, it's week to week. It really is. Just a few weeks ago, even the week before the game at Derry, North Catholic they beat Central Valley by like 1 point, I believe it was, 14-13. Now they're back riding high. They're tied for first now. Again, they're in a 3-way tie with Derry and Elizabeth Forward. And I'm back on the North Catholic bandwagon. Officially.
Back on him again. All right. On again, off again.
One more thing that kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah.
Another goose egg put up by the Seneca Valley defense. We talked last week about how good they were and if they would give up a certain amount of points.
85.5.
Yeah, and we all went over. No, I don't know. It might be under the way they've been playing here lately.
They're averaging giving up 7 points a game.
7 points a game. You're going to win a lot of games when you only give up.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
you are. 50 points all year, right?
Yep.
So far. Yeah, I think it's not for me. Last week, I guess, kind of on a negative tone, was Montauk's loss at Brockway, 31-12 last week. Not so much that they lost the game, but as much as they dominated the game. I mean, they dominated in yardage, they dominated in moving the football. The defense had another strong effort. But again, 4 turnovers, 14 penalties by Montauk last week. Kind of let one step away. I thought they should have had.
That's one thing they don't want to dominate in, that they have been dominating.
Yes.
Is penalties and penalty yardage. I talked to Coach Robin last week. He said we need to clean that stuff
And
up.
they turned the ball over, too.
Made a step forward to cleaning up the penalties, and then they ended up getting 14 penalties again. That's been their big weakness this year. There's nothing wrong with their defense. There's nothing wrong with their offense right now. They've been rolling up yards. They're just making dumb mistakes and dumb penalties, and that's killing them right now. If they can get that cleaned up, they're a dangerous team. But until that happens, I think you're going to see a lot more of this where they roll up 400 yards to 250 and they end up losing.
Oh, so last week's picks, Derek. Where did we stand last week, and where did we stand overall here?
First of all, I want to point out Scoop, who went 11-0.
Oh,
and Scoop,
Bino living with the bird.
Scoop is now 63-10 on the season. I also with Scoop won 11-0.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am now 62-11.
You're flying side by side with Scoop. Just soaring
right now. Actually, I'm right behind him, and as you know, if you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes.
Good point by you.
John,
better be
you
behind him than under him.
Yeah, that's
John,
I think we're under him right now.
John and Mike both went 10-1. That puts John at 61-12 and Mike at 60-13. So we all have 60 wins. It's pretty good for right now.
Yeah, what's your record again? Are you tied with Scoop overall?
I'm 1 game behind him.
Oh, you're 1 game
I'm
behind.
62-11.
And Scoop is
63-10.
63 and 10. Scoop's impressive this year. You got to give it to Scoop.
I haven't looked back at the records of Scoop over the years, but this has to be his best winning percentage through 73 games in history. Because I can't imagine him being. We're talking about like he's real. I can't imagine him being 63-10. Good job, Scoop.
You mean he's
He
not
was
real?
off camera. He was saying it over there.
You mean he's not real?
No, he's not.
Oh,
It's like saying.
Well, anyway,
Say that.
careful.
Might be kids watching.
Careful.
No, Scoop is real.
Anyway, I want to go on record.
Scoop is very real.
Weeks ago on our over-under segment, which we'll get to here in just a moment, I did predict Scoop to hit 100 wins this year. That was weeks ago. So, and I think he's going to get there.
I think he's going to be close. It's going to be close. He is hurt because, unfortunately, we no longer have Bruce City in our coverage area. So he lost 7 wins right there. Because I'm sure he would have picked them in every game this year. And of course, Grove City's won every game this year. So he could be really sitting at 70-10, and that'd be a lot better chance for him to get 100. But 70 wins right now at 63. So I still think he's going to fall a little short because I don't think there's enough games for him to win.
Okay.
But hey, that's just me. I could be wrong.
Well, let's look at our over-under segment here coming up. It's my turn to produce the over-under questions for you two guys, and I'm going to start off with not too early to think playoffs. You only have 3 weeks left in the regular season, so I'm going to go. I'm going to advance. I'm going to advance this right to the playoffs and ask you guys over/under 4.5 number of Butler County teams that win a playoff game this year. Not make the playoffs. Win a playoff game. Over/under 4.5 for Butler County teams winning a playoff game. Derek, I'll start with you.
So we're including Union AC, obviously, because they're in
well, I should say our coverage area teams. Yes.
I'm looking here. I'm going to go under.
You're going to go under.
I got Seneca Valley winning a playoff game, Mars, North Catholic, and Slippery Rock.
Good. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to have 4, so we're going to be under.
I'm going over. What teams did you mention again?
Seneca Valley, Mars, North Catholic, and Slippery Rock.
I'm going to tack on either or Freeport or Montauk to that list. So I'm going over.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, our the second question. Over under, of course, North Catholic, which is you guys have been following them. They haven't scored more than 49 points in a game this season. They've hit 49 a couple of times. They seem to stop there. They're very careful not to go over that total. They host Uniontown this week, and it's no secret Uniontown's been coughing up big numbers. So over under for points by North Catholic in this Friday's game against Uniontown, 49.5. Mike, I'll start with you. Is this the week where North Catholic scores 50 more points?
No, they're going to go under because they're going to follow their same pattern. They're going to score between 42
Around
and 49 points the first half, and then they're going to empty the bench, and they're not going to score the second half. So later we're going to do our predictions. I'm going to predict they're going to score 49 points, so that's under.
Derek, over under 49.5. North Catholic versus
I'm actually
Uniontown.
going over. I agree with Mike on one point. I think they're going to score a ton of points in the first half, but I think Uniontown's bad enough that third stringers can score on them, especially North Catholic's third stringers. So I think they score in the mid-50s to go over.
I have to agree. I think I'm going over. This is the one game where they'll go over 50. I don't think they're going to want to. I do credit North Catholic's coaching staff. I think they're very conscious of not running up scores and not going too high. But I think they will win in the 50.
Look, here's another factor why I think they're going to go under.
Go ahead.
They've refocused their offense on the run.
Oh, they have.
Which is going to maybe slow down the points a little bit. Unless they bust off 70-yard runs, which is possible. But I think that's going to slow them down a little bit. That's why another reason why I think they're going to go under. Not by much, obviously. 49 is half a point under, but I don't think they're going to get the 50. Okay. I think again they're going to cap themselves at 49.
All right. My last over-under question concerns the Knock Knights. Knock, of course, running that triple option that seems to happen 2 straight years now under Coach Frank Whalen, that they run an offense. And last year they kicked in late. This year appears to be doing the same thing. Knock closes the season this Friday at Newcastle. Then they play Trinity and Freeport. Trinity's having a bad year. They only won 1 game. Freeport, of course, at 500, but a pretty good defense. But Knox offense in the last 3 games of the season, over or under 75.5 total points. Michael, start with you.
Oh, that's over. That's over.
It's over?
Yeah, they're gonna. That's only about
25 games. 26 games to go over.
Yeah, they're gonna go over. They're gonna go over that. I think they're gonna score in the 30s, high 30s, maybe even 40 in a couple of these games. And then
Wow.
Freeport, they might be held a little bit under, but I think they go over.
Derek, over under 75.5 points.
I'm
in
actually
the
going
last
under.
3 games.
I'm going under. I think Freeport. I think that's going to be a good game. I actually don't see that being a high-scoring game either way. Whoever wins that game at the end of the season, I think it's going to be low-scoring. I think the one breakout game that Knock can have is the game against Trinity. You said they're not good at all. This week against, and we'll talk about this game a little later. This week against Newcastle, basically the loser's going to be completely out of the playoff picture. You have to win this game if you're Newcastle or Knock. I think it's going to be a fairly low-scoring game. I don't see Knock or Newcastle scoring many points, so I'm going under. I could see Knock averaging, say, 20 points a game the rest of the year.
I agree with Mike on this one. I'm going over 75.5 points. I do think Freeport will hold them down a little bit. By a little bit, I mean 3 touchdowns maybe. I see Knox scoring a lot on Newcastle, and I see him scoring a lot on Trinity. Not that they'll average more than 24 points a game, so I'm going over on that last.
It's a pretty good number. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Over under. That's right about where 26 points is right about where probably they're going to average. But I still think they're going to go a little bit over because they're going to roll up some serious yards and points against Trinity and Newcastle. I don't think Newcastle's defense is very stout this year.
I'll say this though, it is getting harder and harder to come up with creative over-under
sure
questions.
is.
We've been doing this now for several weeks, so
3
it's
weeks is
tough.
really hard.
Yeah.
But he did a good job.
All right.
Pretty good ones.
All right, well, we will switch gears and look at a couple subjects here. And my next subject on the agenda is Kearney City football. The last 2 games, of course, the Gremlins started off 1-4. They were really struggling the last 2 weeks against St. Mary's and Kane. They won by blowout scores. Mike, I believe you covered both those games,
Yes, I
did you
did.
not? So we'll start with you on this question. Kearney City's last 2 games, is it a mirage or are they for real? Are the real Gremlins back, as they say, by real Gremlins, I mean a typical Kearney City football team? Or was it a mirage? They got beat up on a couple of maybe softer opponents. Your thoughts on where Kearney City stands right now?
It's not a mirage, but there's some middle ground there. They're not back to being Kearney City that we remember, but they're not as bad as they were when they were 1-4. And they really weren't even that bad when they were 1-4. They just had mistakes that killed them. They scored 96 points now in the last 2 weeks and 2 blowout wins. We're going to find out if they're for real or not.
We
this
are.
week
We are.
when they go to Ridgeway. That's going to be the real litmus test. These last 2 games, yeah, they've shown some signs of being themselves. That third quarter last week was the best third quarter. It was Kearney City football in a nutshell in that third quarter. But they're still wildly inconsistent. The first half, they only scored 14 points. It was 14-7. They were actually down 7-6 at one point last week. In that game, they had 2 turnovers the first half, and kind of the same mistakes that they had made the first 5 games when they were 1-4, kind of reared their ugly head. Third quarter, though, they look like Kearney City rolled. Fourth quarter, of course, things had gotten to a point where there's some backups in the game. But if they can bottle what they did in that third quarter, yeah, they'll be Kearney City rolled. But I still don't think they're quite there yet.
Derek, what's the state of the Gremlins? What do you think?
It's a lot. Let's face it, it's a lot easier to get back on track when you're playing teams like a struggling Kane team, a struggling St. Mary's team. As Mike said, the litmus test is this week. They go up to face a Ridgeway team on Friday that just beat Clarion. Ridgeway's the only undefeated team in the conference, so we'll see how they do up there. Obviously, 2 big wins. I mean, obviously, anytime you're 1-4, you're looking to go out and put your stamp on a game, get back into the win column. Kearney City's done that 2 straight weeks, but to me, it's not the Kearney City team of old. I mean,
Not quite.
not
They're
quite.
getting
Not
there.
quite. It's obviously a step forward. Like I said, we'll see how they do against Ridgeway, but it's not KC from the last few years, that's for sure.
They don't have to me, they don't have the plethora of running backs that they usually have. I mean, Devin Ryan's come on a little bit the last couple of games, and of course Hunter Jones is having a fabulous year for them. But usually Kearney City has 5 or 6 kids that they can give the football to, if not more than that. They really don't have that this year, and I don't think their passing game has developed to the point that they'd hoped it would by this
That's
point.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's holding them back a little bit.
Yeah.
That and that they're still wildly inconsistent. Like I said, that first quarter, 2 turnovers, and then the third quarter they did a complete 180 and played dominant football. Until they can start getting more consistency, get rid of those mistakes, and start playing consistently like they did in the third quarter, they're still going to be an up and down team, and we're not going to know. I don't think they even know from quarter to quarter who they are yet. what kind of team they are yet. So we'll see again this week. We'll see. This is going to be a big test for them.
Yeah, until they put together a really good passing game, I can't say they're totally back until that happens. Moving forward then, I'm looking for this category. It's one of my favorite things with high school football, not just football, but high school athletics in general. High school team nicknames. You guys both know there's some wild ones out there. Derek, we'll start with you on this one. What are some of your favorite high school football team nicknames, whether it be locally or elsewhere? What's your take on some of these creative names that are out there?
When it comes to nicknames, I like two things. I like nicknames that are based on an area's history and nicknames that are unique. So for in our coverage area, my favorite nickname by far is Carn City Gremlins. I mean, that's just, I mean, how many Gremlins are there? I'm sure there's a few somewhere.
Actually, I can answer that question. But believe it or not, Carn City's Gremlins and Mars Fighting Planets are the only two schools in the country that have those
There
nicknames.
you go.
No other school
Okay.
in the United States has those nicknames.
Those are unique, but I do have a couple other ones I want to throw out there for you. Northeast Grape Pickers, obviously a nod to that area's grape picking and wine industry. You got the Williamsport Millionaires.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Their logo on their jerseys is a top hat, a cane, and a pair of white gloves. Not exactly blue collar, but and you also have the Kimberly, Wisconsin Paper Makers. I guess there's a paper mill in that town.
There is.
And which means it stinks. Any town with a paper mill stinks, but I think that's pretty unique. One nickname I would advise teams not to go after: the Fisher High School, Illinois Bunnies.
The Bunnies,
Bunnies
that's right.
is not Bunnies.
I actually had the Bunnies. There's also
Bunnies.
At least if you're going to be the bunnies, put like fighting in front of it. Be the fighting bunnies or the fighting bunnies.
there's also the Benson Bunnies in Nebraska. There's actually more than one team called the
Benson Bunnies.
Yeah, there's the
Fighting
Benson
bunnies.
Bunnies. Mike, how about you? Some of your
Obviously,
favorite
obviously Gremlins. I mean,
Yeah.
we've written stories about their nickname and written about nicknames in Butler County, and that one kind of sticks out. Grape Pickers, of course, sticks out. Back in the valley where we're from, we had the polka dots.
The polka dots, yep.
Polka
They're on my
dots.
list as well.
That was a really
Out of
that's a
West
really good
Virginia.
one.
Yep. Polka West Virginia.
I really like the Fighting Planets because it's not fighting planets. It's fighting with a apostrophe.
Yeah.
It's fighting. They're the fighting planets.
I've never understood.
No one ever calls them.
I've never understood how planets fight though. I don't understand.
They never call them fighting planets. I was just calling them the planets. I think planets is pretty good.
Wouldn't Saturn have a big advantage because Saturn has that ring around it?
Yeah.
So the front-
They're too gassy.
Too gassy.
Too gassy. So those are obviously my favorites. And then of course you have the run-of-the-mill ones, which we won't mention them all, but just some creativity. I think Wildcats is the most popular nickname in the country.
Oh yeah. Well, Wildcats, Tigers,
If you
Warriors,
pick
Vikings,
Wildcats, you're just copping out. You're just like, hey, we can't figure anything else out. Let's be the Wildcats. You know what? The Night Falcons is pretty cool. Or is it Falcon Knights?
Falcon
It
Knights.
depends on-
Knights.
The
Falcon
golf
Knights.
team is known as
Yeah.
the Night Falcons because their AC value.
Yeah.
It
The
goes
football
back
team
and
is the
forth.
Falcon
The
Knights.
football team's the Falcons.
Yeah, I think Night Falcons sounds better. If I was them, I would just go with Night Falcons.
Yeah, David
Night
Hasselhoff
Falcons
is
sounds
your-
really good.
David Hasselhoff could be your mascot.
Or the Night Riders. You can do that. The Night Riders. Anyway, those are my favorite.
My favorite local one, I used to love when Butler played Newcastle in football because it was the Golden Tornado against the Red Hurricane. It was like the battle of the weather storm systems. And I've never seen what's golden about a tornado, and I've never understood what's red about a hurricane. But that was always one of my favorite clashes. I like the Aliquippa Quips. I've always liked that one. The Hampton Talbots, named Talbot being a dog. I've never quite understood that nickname, but it's unique. It's different.
It is.
Some of the ones I like nationally, and there's some good ones out there. How about in Illinois, the Cobden Apple Knockers? You don't want
to mess around with an apple knocker.
Or there's down in Texas, there's the Springtown Fighting Porcupines.
No, that's
There we
You
go.
don't want to take on them.
See, anything you put fighting in front of sounds so much better.
fighting bunnies.
Or how
That's
about
right, fighting bunnies.
how about this one out in Minnesota, the Blooming Prairie Awesome Blossoms?
The fighting Awesome Blossoms.
Awesome Blossoms,
See, doesn't that
because-
sound so much better?
There's the Waters Meet Nimrods up in Michigan.
Fighting Nimrods.
That's a team nickname.
The fighting Nimrods.
And you got down in Nebraska, the Hoopstown Corn Jerkers. You got
I'm not even gonna go there.
you got the North Berlin pretzels. You know,
Like
they
pretzels.
can say the quarterback put some mustard on that one. You got the Centralia Orphans. You got there's some great nicknames out there.
Fighting orphans.
And finally, my another favorite in Colorado, the Rocky Mountain oysters. You gotta like that one too.
How many oysters are there in the Rocky Mountain?
I don't know, but you can go on and on with nicknames. It's one of my favorite subjects, but I had to bring that up. So I'm glad we went there.
Just put fighting in front of any nickname.
Yep.
That's so much better.
You got some unique ones out there. But anyway. Let's get on to our football picks. Week 7 local schedule. We will start out with Central Catholic, 5-2, 3-2 at winless Butler, 0-7, 0-5. I cover Butler, so I'll start with this one. I do believe that, that's all right. I do believe that Butler's moving the football better the last couple of weeks. It's not going to produce a victory. I'd be foolish to think they're going to knock off Central Catholic, but the way past history's gone so far this season, but I do think Butler does go on the board. I think they score a touchdown. I'm picking Central Catholic to win 42-10. Derek, your thoughts on Central Butler?
Right now, Central is in 4th place in that conference. Obviously, they'd like to move up, but as long as they hold 4th place, they'll host a playoff game. And you know they'd be looking forward to that. I don't see them tripping up here. You know that's the last thing they want to do. I do think Butler scores. And I think this game will be closer than their past few games, but I see Central winning 39-7.
Mike?
Yeah, I think Butler is starting to show a little bit of signs, especially in offense. Like you said, they've been moving the ball. They've been grinding the clock, grinding the running game. Still, it's we talk every week about Butler, about how it's all about baby steps. Maybe they take another baby step this week, 35-7. I think that's a baby step forward if they lose by that kind of a score.
Okay, we got Woodland Hills, 2-5 overall, 1-4. This is a non-section game for Seneca Valley. They are at Seneca Valley, 5-2 and 4-2. Derek, you cover the Raiders. We'll start with you on this one.
I'll be covering this one too.
Yes, you will. You will.
Woodland Hills started the season 0-4. They have won 2 of their last 3 games, including. I didn't get the details on this game, but they beat Kiski last week, 47-0. And Kiski's not a great team. I think they're a decent team. So I'm not sure what was going on
That's
there.
what surprised me, actually.
It kind of surprised me. I figured Kiski was going to win that game. I think this game stays close, but I don't think Woodland Hills has enough firepower going up against that Seneca team we mentioned earlier. They're giving up a touchdown a game. Very stingy. I see Seneca winning this game, a close one. It's homecoming for Seneca this week. 17-14 Raiders.
Yeah, one thing about Woodland Hills, they have lost a couple tight ones. They lost by 2 to Upper St. Clair. They lost by 1 to West Allegheny. But they've also been, Peters Township shut them out and only scored 1 touchdown in another game. So I don't know if they have the offense to go up against that tough defense from Seneca Valley. I'm picking the Raiders also. 24-7. I'll take Seneca Valley. Mike?
This is going to be a slobber knocker, I think. I think it's going to come down to Seneca's defense. Seneca's defense is going to dominate again. I think Woodland Hills does score, but I think Seneca shuts them down pretty well and does just enough on offense to win 18-6. Seneca Valley.
Okay, we got the Knock Knights, 2-5 overall, 2-4 in section play. They travel to Newcastle, 3-4 overall, 1-3 in section play. Must win for the Knights. They need to win and get some help to squeak into the playoffs. Mike, we're going to go to you on this one. How do you like the Knights' chances at Newcastle?
I think every time Knox been backed into a corner, they've come out fighting and they've come out with big wins. So I think they get another one this week to keep their slim hopes alive. I think they put up some pretty good numbers against a Newcastle team that has struggled this year at times. I think Knock triple option is going to be hard for Newcastle to handle. I think Knock wins 38-24.
Derek, what are your thoughts on Knock Newcastle?
I don't know why this kid didn't play the first few weeks. Demetrius McKnight, he's a quarterback for Newcastle. All I know is what he's done the last few games. 400 total yards between rushing and passing. I believe it's the last 3 games. This game's at Newcastle. John, you've been to Taggart Stadium. It's kind of a unique environment. It's like right in the middle of a neighborhood. it's
Tough place to park. Tough place to park your car. I'll say that.
tough place to park your car, and I think it's going to be a tough place for Knock to play. I can't get that loss that Knock had just 2 weeks ago against Montour. I went 35-33 against a team that scored 17 points the whole year. I like this addition of McKnight. I'm not sure why. Was he hurt the first few weeks? I don't know, but I like Newcastle to win this and keep their slim playoff hopes alive, 25-17.
The good thing is, not players won't have to park, so they'll be in the bus.
That's true.
They don't
They'll
have
be
to
in the
worry
bus.
about that.
They don't have to worry about the parking. One thing I don't like about Newcastle is they have trouble scoring points. They haven't scored more than 17 in a game since week 0. Knock, as we talked about earlier on the over-under segment, Knock's triple option, they produce points late in the season. I don't think Newcastle will score with Knock. I don't think they'll match their offense in this game. I'm picking Knock to win, but I do think this could be one of the better games of the weekend. I'm picking Knock to win 28-21.
Ooh.
Could be one of the better games of the weekend, I think. It could be one of the better games. We got the Morris Planets, Fighting Planets, I should say.
That's right.
6-1 overall, 3-1 in sectional play, having a great season up to this point. They're heading down to Fox Chapel, which is 2-5. Fox Chapel 2-5 overall, 1-3 in section play. Derek, you cover Morris quite a bit. You follow the Planets and Scott Heiner. What are your thoughts here?
There's another unique nickname, Foxes. I forgot about that.
Fox Chapel Foxes, that's right.
Fox Chapel has won 2 of their last 3, but I can't get past the fact that they've had 4 games this year. This is Fox Chapel where they've scored 7 or less points. And they're going up against a pretty stingy defense in Mars. Garrett Ranke's running wild, over 200 yards last week against North Hills. I know the game's at Fox Chapel, Mars 34-13. I just can't pick against Mars right now.
Mike, your thoughts?
Mars has too much fight for the Foxes. Garrett Ranke's going to have another big game. That defense is going to shut down Fox Chapel pretty handily. I think Mars wins this one going away, 35-7.
Yeah, Fox Chapel, they've been shut out a couple times, and Baldwin held them to a touchdown. They've lost 3 games by blowouts. I don't think they can stack up well with Mars either. I think the Planets are on their way to one of their strongest seasons in a few years now. I pick Mars to win. I'm going to say 34-14. So we move on to winless Uniontown, 0-7 overall, 0-5. Derek, you're already shuddering at the thought of this game. Uniontown, they come into Mars, but not to play the Planets. They're coming into Mars to play North Catholic, which is 6-1 and 4-1. North Catholic seems to have gotten healthy, especially shutting out Elizabeth Forward last week, an impressive win. Mike, start with you on this one. Uniontown, North Catholic, what are you looking at here?
Well, again, we talked about over-under 49.5. I think North Catholic's going to score 49. They might score all of them in the first half, at least 42 of them in the
First quarter.
Yeah, it could be a 35-0 first quarter score. I see North Catholic winning 49-12. I think Uniontown puts up a couple of garbage touchdowns in the fourth quarter against the second and third stringers for Newcastle, or for North Catholic. Sorry.
Total mismatch from my view here. I'm picking my most lopsided score of the season to date. North Catholic wins 54-6. Derek,
I would love to be able to tell you that Uniontown's going to come up here and give a fight. They're a Fayette County team. I'm a Fayette County guy. It's not going to happen.
You'd love to tell us that, but
I'd love to tell you that, but no, Uniontown's given up 56 points per game this year, and most of their competition is against teams that are far less of a caliber than North Catholic, right? York, Burrell being 61-6.
They did
54-8. That's my final pick.
Just 2 points off my pick. All right, I like it.
I have
Uniontown gets the 2-point conversion.
Oh, okay. They're gonna make 2 points.
I have North Catholic winning 49-12, and that's the closest score.
Yes, it is. We're not throwing much love out to Uniontown, so.
Man, we were really down on Uniontown.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people. Well, Uniontown's been down against a lot of teams, so.
0-7, 0-5 will do that.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We got Burrell, the Burrell Bucks, 2-5 overall, 2-4 in section play. Heading down to Freeport to face a Yellow Jacket team that's successfully responded from an 0-3 start. They're back at 500, 3-3 overall. Same record in section play. I'll start off with this one. I think the Yellow Jackets have totally found their game. Connor Sellinger's healthy now. they're rolling. Burl, if you look at some comparisons here, Burl lost to York 35-6. Freeport just shut out York. It's Burl lost to Deer Lakes 34-21. Freeport won a close game last week against Deer Lakes. The matchup doesn't bode well for the Bucks. I am picking Freeport to win this game 28-7. And Derek, will throw it to you on your thoughts on Burl Freeport.
We talked about the hole a few weeks ago that Freeport put themselves in when they started out the season 0-3. But we also said that the really good teams in that conference were out of the way. We talked about the possibility that Freeport could run the table, still make the playoffs. That's still a possibility for them. I don't see them slipping up against Burl here, 32-7, Freeport.
Mike,
I'm going with Burl. No,
what?
I just want to see if you can scratch out Freeport. I just want to see if you can scratch out Freeport in this thing. No, I'm going with Freeport, of course. I still think it all begins and ends at Freeport with Austin Romanchak. As he goes, Freeport goes. Connor Sellinger is obviously a nice piece too to the puzzle. Freeport, after that 0-3 start, has really hit their stride, and Burl, they're not a bad team, but at home or on the road at Freeport, Freeport's kind of smelling the blood in the water. Another great nickname, Yellow Jackets.
It is a good
all
one.
one word. All one word.
That's right.
Which is unique. So I kind of like their nickname too. But I'm going with them because of their football team and how good they have been the last 3 weeks. I think Freeport wins this one handily. I'm going to go 31-14.
Big one. Big one up at Ridgeway, undefeated, the lone unbeaten team left in that K-Sock big school conference. Ridgeway at 7-0, playing host to the Corn City Gremlins, who are 3-4. They've won their, as we touched upon earlier, Corn City's won their last 2 games by lopsided scores. Now they face an unbeaten opponent. Derek, I'm going to start with you on this game as well. Your thoughts on Corn City Ridgeway?
Ridgeway coming off that huge win over Clarion. Yeah. Battle of unbeatens last week. Ridgeway wins the game 28-15. There might be a letdown, a little bit of a letdown there. You're coming off a win against a game that the entire district had its eye on. If you're Ridgeway, you beat Clarion 28-15. There might be a little bit of an emotional letdown there. Corn City's coming off 2 straight wins. I do think they keep it close, but in the end, I see Ridgeway coming up with a few more plays. Ridgeway 27-21.
Mike, KC Ridgeway, what do you think?
This is to me the most intriguing game on the schedule. Derek hit on it too. I think Ridgeway might be in for a little bit of a letdown. This could be a tough game for them because coming off that big emotional win at Clarion. Corn City got some momentum after the last 2 weeks. I like the way they played in the third quarter. If they can kind of keep that ball rolling, I think they can go to Ridgeway, and I think they can upset them. I think Corn City's going to win this. It's going to be a really competitive, close game, 35-34 Corn City.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I think KC pulled out the upset.
To me, this is Corn City's season right now. If they can win this game, that's going to give them so much momentum going forward. They can be a scary team in the playoffs. I think they know it. I think the coaching staff knows it. I think they have this game circled on their calendar. I think they're really motivated to go up there and shock a lot of people because they're in a unique situation this year where they're kind of the underdog now. And I think they're not used to that. They're starting to relish that a little bit.
Yep. I'll tell you what, I agree with you on one phase there. This is a big pride game for Corn City. I mean, they know no one expects them to go up there and win this game. Ridgeway's undefeated.
Mike does.
Well, Mike does.
I'm sure they do.
But I looked up some stuff on Ridgeway. Ridgeway is the old Corn City now. I mean, they have a ton of kids run the ball for them. They have no one running back with more than 325 yards rushing, but they have 4 of them who approach that total. They've had 5 different players catch touchdown passes. They've had 7 different players rush for touchdowns. And get this, their defense has 15 players in double figures in tackles this year. 15.
Well, it means they have a deep roster.
Oh, very. And they only have 49 kids. So you figure that's approximately 1 out of every 3 players on their roster has a double-digit tackle. That's pretty amazing. That's a deep team. I would like Corn City's chances a lot better if it was at Corn City, going up there to face Ridgeway in this game. I don't know if it's a homecoming or not. It very well might be.
Or senior night, possibly.
Yeah, you never know. I do think Corn City battles them. I agree with both you guys. It's going to be a close game. But I'm going to give the nod to Ridgeway in a wild game. I'm going to say Ridgeway wins 38-34. I do think it'll be a wild game. St. Mary's, winless St. Mary's, they're 0-7. They come down to Montauk, which is stinging off that tough loss at Brockway last week. Montauk 3-4. Mike, you've seen a lot of the Warriors. We'll start with you in this one. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, this isn't the worst St. Mary's team I've seen.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not.
I know that's not necessarily a ringing endorsement for St. Mary's.
No, they can score. They can score.
But St. Mary's has had some bad teams, bad 0-7 teams. This one, the point I'm trying to make is this isn't a bad 0-7 team. They're competitive in a lot of these games. Even though sometimes it doesn't show it on the scoreboard, they have some good, decent players on offense and on defense. They're talented, but again, this is a pride game for Montauk too. I believe. I believe they know the season could be slipping a little bit away from them, and they need a big win at home to kind of keep it from sliding down the hill any further. So I think they're going to come out motivated. They're going to come out angry. They're going to come out fighting, the fighting Warriors. So I think Montauk's going to win this one, 28-15.
Yeah, I look at St. Mary's, and like I said, they can score some points. They do have a decent quarterback, as you pointed out, but they cannot stop anybody. You look at their game against Brookville last week, they lost 63-32. Jack Krug from Brookville, their injured quarterback, came back last week. Get these numbers. Krug was 10 of 12 for 357 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half.
What are you saying, Tom?
In the first half. He didn't play in the second half. They gave up 666 total yards to Brookville. Now, granted, Brookville's got a great offense, but St. Mary's has no defense. Montauk wins this game, and they win big. I'm going to say Montauk wins 34-14. Derek?
St. Mary's is winless, and they stay that way. Short and simple. 28-7.
All right. Union AC Valley, they're 3-4. They're fighting for a playoff spot. They're heading up to Cameron County, which is 1-6. Derek, we'll start with you on this game. What are your thoughts on a game that was almost moved? I'll mention a little bit about that in a couple minutes, but your thoughts on this contest?
Cameron County's won one game. It was a 6-0 win over Sheffield. Wish I could have seen that slobber knocker.
They beat the Nanny 60-0.
Union AC Valley is going to roll in this game. Cameron County scored 18 points all year. Union AC Valley's coming off that 12-8 win over Keystone last Thursday night. This is a chance for them to even their record at 4-4. They're 3-4 right now. They are not going to let this opportunity slip through their fingers. I like Union AC to win 36-6.
Mike, your
Yeah,
thoughts on this?
I've been a resident on the Falcon Knight bandwagon for a while now.
You have been.
I like them to win this game big. I think they're going to just absolutely roll in this game. I think they're going to put up a 40-burger.
Whoa.
I see this being like 46-21. Union AC Valley. I think their offense is very dynamic, and they're getting better every week. This is a dangerous team right now. I don't want to play Union AC
They
Valley.
are, and yep. And I respect Union AC Valley's defense. I don't think Cameron County is going to score 21 on them. I'm going to pick Union AC Valley to win this game rather handily. I'm going to say 35-6 in favor of Union AC Valley. What I want to mention about this game was almost moved because of a shortage of officials up there. I've got a story. I've got a story in the Butler Eagle this week about this situation. Cameron County only had 3 officials signed up for this game. This was as of a couple weeks ago. They couldn't find any other officials. You have to have a 6th, of course, to work the game, and they didn't have an umpire, nor a referee. Two of the top officials. So they told the union's Scott Kendall, the AD, about this situation, and asked them, "Can you come up and play on Thursday night? We can get officials for Thursday night." It's a 3-hour drive, and Union has school on Friday, so that was out of the question. They wanted to play them on Saturday, and Union didn't want to do that because they have a big game for them next week against Red Bank Valley. They want a full week to prepare for that. So this game was in danger of being canceled, and it's also Cameron County's homecoming game. So, because Union offered to host the game, but Cameron County didn't want to do that because it's their homecoming, right? So the only other option was Union to find 3 officials, and they came up with 3, including a gentleman by the name of Dave Lumley. He's a Butler guy, 28 years as officials. These guys, on their only night off all year, volunteered to make the trek up to Cameron County to save this game. So kudos to these 3 officials. It's really a cool
saves a game
thing.
on the schedule for both teams.
Yep.
Saves Cameron County's homecoming. That's a great story.
It is.
That shows you that the power of people to kind of volunteer their time and to make sure that Cameron County gets their homecoming and that Union, AC Valley, and Cameron County get a game. Because I'm sure no one wanted to buy this week.
No,
Especially Union going into a big game next week against Red Bank.
Yeah.
So props to them for stepping forward and doing that. That's awesome.
And the other thing it shows is these officials really, they do these games for these kids. They don't do it for the money. They don't get paid a lot of money to do these games. So they do these games to help the kids, to help out the program. It's a great gesture on the part of these three officials, including Butler's own Dave Lumley. Moving on, Hickory 2-5 on the year, coming on Slip Rock 5-2. Slip Rock, Mike, as you mentioned last week in your preview, Slip Rock had to get a regional win. That they got one last week. Now they face a Hickory team that's only 2-5, kind of a down year for the Hickory Hornets. What are your thoughts on this?
They're going to get another region win because this isn't the Hickory that people in District 10 have been accustomed to for the past decade. This is Hickory's worst start since 2008, believe it or not.
Wow.
It's been 10 years since Hickory team's been 2-5. Last year wasn't a great year for them either. So this is kind of a beginning of a trend downward for the Hornets after, I think, 6 or 7 straight years of 10 plus wins and some really good Hickory teams. There were some really good Hickory Super Rock games a few years ago, back when both of these teams were juggernauts. So Hickory's trending down, Super Rock's trending up. You have to figure out, from that trend, what's going to happen in this game. Super Rock rolls 42-17.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Slip Rock's going to overlook Hickory at all. They've had too many close battles with them through the years. It's at Slip Rock. Late season game. Slip Rock's getting momentum toward the playoffs. I'm going to pick the Rockets to win this game. I'm going to say 35-14 Slip Rock. Derek, your thoughts on this one?
Well, we got Hickory. Their 2 wins this year are against pretty weak teams, Greenville and Westinghouse. The Westinghouse win came last week.
They barely beat Westinghouse too.
A city league team from Pittsburgh that is struggling. So the game's at home for Slippery Rock. They're not going to slip up here. I have the Rockets winning 34-10.
In our final game, Summit Academy, 0-7, 0-4 in section play. They have scored now in 3 straight games. Scored a single touchdown. They're going down to Valley, which is struggling a bit in their own right. Valley is 2-5 overall, 1-3 in section play. Derek, what kind of shot to give Summit Academy of getting their first win here?
Not much, but I will say this: before this past Friday, Valley was on a 5-game losing streak.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, maybe. And then they end up beating Napola Ridge. So now there was a small chance I was going to side with Summit on this, get that first win, but then Valley goes out and beats Napola Ridge. And picking Valley, the Vikings, to beat Summit 31-12. Sorry, Summit. I was going to pick you, but not now.
Mike, Summit and Valley. Do you give Summit a shot or no?
They have a shot, but it's not a very good shot. I think they have a better shot this week than they've had in any other game this year, obviously. I think this is going to be a competitive game, and that's really all Summit kind of wants at this point is a competitive game. I think Summit scores multiple times, but I think they fall a little bit short, 28-18 Valley.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Summit does score more than 1 touchdown for the first game this year, but I do think Valley wins it. I'm going to pick 30-12 Valley over Summit Academy. Which takes us to our final segment of this week's program, and that is a How About segment, a look at another sport. And Mike, you did a feature on this in the Butler Eagle this past week. Good story, by the way, on the WPIL girls tennis doubles final that involved Shady Side Academy's Ella Santora, if I can spit that out. Formerly of Ella Santora, formerly of Knock High School. She was their number one singles player at Knock her freshman season. Since transferred to Shady Side Academy, teamed up with Aya Yousev to defeat Maury's tandem of Emily Ivory and Amelia Haley. What's neat about the story is, of course, Santori and Ivory grew up in the Butler Country Club youth program, and you touched upon that in that story.
Yeah, it just shows you how good this youth program is at the Butler Country Club to produce 2 very high-quality high school players. El Santora is one of the best players around.
She is.
Emily Ivory is only a sophomore, and I think she's going to develop into one of the better players around too. So it just shows you just the kind of caliber of tennis that's being played at Butler Country Club, and And El Santora, you have to wonder if she didn't transfer to Shadyside Academy, what would Knox tennis team?
Oh my goodness, I know.
With El Santora
Yep.
in there with Brooke Bauer and of course Laura Grab. I mean, talk about three top-notch singles players in one team. That'd be pretty hard for anyone to compete with.
And not just that, but if El Santora is still at Knox, they bumped their third singles player, I believe that's Emma West, down to doubles, which makes the doubles per team that much stronger. Yeah, because you can only play 3 girls.
Another amazing thing about this is El Santora and Aya Youssef had only been playing together for less than 2 weeks before they won this WPO championship. They, as El said, they complement each other very well. Their styles are very complementary to each other, which is what you need out of a doubles tandem. You can't have 2 players play similar. You need 2 players who have different strengths and weaknesses so they can play off of each other. And whoever put this team together kind of was brilliant because those two are very hard to beat. And I think they're going to make a pretty good run at the state level too.
They're kind of a feel-good story here, and a feather in the cap certainly to Butler Country Club's youth tennis program.
Let's face it, girls tennis and tennis overall, even boys tennis, it's kind of like pretty far down on the rung as far as getting attention about high school sports. But when we have as much success as we have with the NOC program the last couple of years, now we got a girl from Butler County that's now at Shadyside winning a Whitfield doubles championship, and 2 girls from Mars going to state for the first time now, Haley and Ivory.
That's a great point.
So it's not only does it give attention to the local athletes, but it also gives attention to the program at Butler Country Club, which Snyder does a great job there. So it provides attention there. And man, I think this is the most success we've had in girls tennis in the county since I've been here. Honestly, the girl at Grove City, the girl at Grove City won a state title a couple years ago, but they're outside the county and we don't even cover them.
Emily Gordon.
Emily Gordon.
And the other thing, the point I want to make on this girls on the Butler Country Club angle on the story is Emily Ivory and El Santora. They both come from generations of family who played at Butler Country Club in their tennis program. I know Emily Ivory's parents have played there. Her grandparents have played there. Her grandparents and parents are still play in events out there. I mean, even now, she's played with and against her parents and grandparents, and same with Santora. It's a family thing out at that country club in terms of tennis, and it's really paying off with the success of these young girls. We wish them nothing but luck when they go to the state tournament.
Derek had a good point. Let's not lose sight of the fact too that the 2 Mars girls, Emily Ivory and Amelia Haver, the tandem there, first Mars girls doubles tandem to state to even get to the Whitfield final. So that's a great accomplishment too. Even though they fell a little bit short against El Santora and Aya Youssef, just to get in there and competing as they did. You know, they had a chance. They were up 5-4 in that first set with match point. They were up 40-love, and so that could have gone either way. And they ended up losing the second set and losing the match. But let's not lose sight of how good those 2 Mars girls have been this year, and them moving forward and doing well.
Going to Hershey.
Well, we wish them all luck, and who knows, maybe we'll meet each other again out at the state meet. It is very possible.
In fact, Emily Ivory said she hopes that they do get to play them again.
Well, that concludes this week's edition of Upon Further Review. We will catch you all next week. Enjoy Friday night's action.